What's going on, guys, and welcome to the first ever Go Spurs Go Memes podcast. Thank you guys for joining me this morning. Hope you enjoy the Facebook page, the Twitter, and the Instagram. So thanks so much for coming on with me. So with the podcast, we will always do a news and rumors section first, and then we'll go into some other fun things. First off, would like to say thank you to some of my buddies that are here with me, my friend Frank and Richard. They are here to kind of help guide the podcast, and you'll also hear them chime in on some news and info as well. All right, guys, well, let's just go ahead and get started. So first off in news and rumors, the big thing that happened this week is that Charles Barkley slammed a San Antonio-based attorney named Lance Lucknick. Barkley claims Lucknick swindled him out of millions of dollars. As Barkley explained way back when he was younger, agents got your entire paycheck. Barkley would receive a $15,000 allowance for the month. Lucknick would tell Barkley that he was investing the rest of the money for Barkley's future. So after 4 years, Barkley was completely broke, and he hadn't even paid taxes. Barkley originally had a 6-year deal with the Sixers for $11 million. So, of course, their relationship completely fell apart. The NBA's Player Association actually suspended Lucknick, and a ruling determined that he owed Barkley over $5 million. Years later, Charles Barkley is still very upset with Lucknick. He even told Dan Patrick recently that if he saw Lucknick, he would blow his brains out, and if he didn't have a gun, he would beat him down. So very interesting to see that after so many years, Barkley still isn't over that. But again, that was money that Barkley earned and was completely taken away from him. So let's talk about Carlos Boozer. As you guys know, I've kind of mentioned Carlos Boozer ever since free agency started. There were a lot of rumors that the Spurs were interested in him. Well, at this point in free agencies, no one is really interested in Carlos Boozer. More than likely, Boozer is going to have to wait till the start of the season to see if a team develops a need for him. He'll be looking for a playoff team that may have a need or injuries that have reduced their lineup. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Carlos Boozer. Don't be surprised to hear Boozer's name around Christmas time. And just for you guys at home so that you know, over 13 years, Boozer has earned over $144 million. Kings have signed former Ole Miss star Marshall Henderson to a training camp deal, which is non-guaranteed. The Thunder have also signed Talib Zanna, also to a non-guaranteed one-year deal. Zanna played in the Thunder's D-League team, which is the Oklahoma City Blue. The Clippers have reached out to free agent Chris Singleton. He was drafted number 18 in 2011 by the Washington Wizards. He played last year in China and also played with the D-League Oklahoma City Blue. Kings free agent center Ryan Hollins is getting interest from the Kings, Wizards, and the Clippers. The Clippers may also just re-sign Glenn Big Baby Davis. They have one spot left on the 15-man rotation, and it might just be big babies to get after all. Big news out of Cleveland this week is that Kyrie Irving may not be ready for the season opener. As we all remember, he got his knee injured last year in the NBA Finals. And after that, he just wasn't the same anymore. Had to go into surgery. Everyone was expecting him to be able to go for the first game of the season, and that just doesn't look like it's going to happen. Rumors are now suggesting that Kyrie Irving will not suit up until January. In my opinion, that is a huge issue for the Cavs. I think that it will actually affect their playoff standing come April, but we'll see what happens. Speaking of the Cavs, you also got to kind of bring up LeBron James. LeBron just sold his Miami home for a cool $13.4 million. He actually made a profit of $4.4 million off of that sale. Chuck Hayes will not be signing with the Houston Rockets, even though it was reported that he would be re-signing. He's looking at other teams, but eventually he wants to get into coaching, so he's looking for an opportunity that will allow him to kind of just segue into coaching. With Hayes not signing with the Rockets will actually open up cap space and will not actually hit the hard cap. So it'll be interesting to see what the Rockets do with that extra money, or if they do anything at all. Big congrats out to Stephanie Reddy. Miss Reddy will be the NBA's first full-time female game analyst. It's never happened before. She'll be an analyst for the Charlotte Hornets, so congrats to Miss Reddy. Now I'm going to be joined by my friend Frank. Frank, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great.
So what do you think about these news and rumors that we just dropped a minute ago?
Well, the funny thing is like your news about Barkley. I miss the old Barkley right now. I mean, because it just seems he's like decaffeinated whenever you see him on TV nowadays and stuff, which I can understand that. But I miss the guy who told the whole world that after he got into a bar fight and threw a guy out the window, you know, when he said, "Do you have any regrets about this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I regret that we're on the first floor," stuff like that. And it feels, you know, I'm not supporting any type of violence on anybody else or anything like that. But, in the context of all this, where he says, he can't wait to just beat this guy. Like, that's the old Barkley. That's
really
the Barkley
is.
I like. I mean, because that's a guy, as a kid, that I always wanted his signature. I always wanted his autograph and everything, but I was always afraid to ask him for it, too.
Yeah.
Because, he spit on a child. I mean,
Yeah,
once before.
because I remember back in the day, like when I was in college, and we would go to that club that was off of 410 called Park Place, and I remember being there one day, and it was when he was part of the Rockets, I think it was, because he walked in, Clyde Drexler walked in, and I think it was Robert Horry walked in, and everybody was in awe, girls running for them and stuff like that, and they literally walked around the club, saw it wasn't for them, and they left, but it's like those opportunities where you see NBA stars, having fun, living their life. It's just like, wow, that's cool or whatever. But that's old school Barkley, It was such a long time ago. That was old school Barkley, the round mound of rebound, So it's very interesting. But it's $5 million. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And then you think about when Barkley played, this was back, early 80s, And so $5 million was a whole lot more back then than it is now. And so you have a 21-year-old Charles Barkley just out of Auburn, and this agent is telling him, I'm going to give you $15,000 a month for play. That's all you got. You got $15,000 a month. Do whatever you want with it. And so now you have, Barkley with this $15,000 a month, just partying it up, having a good time. And then, I hate to say he sobers up a little bit, but then realizes, hey, where's the rest of my money? And it's gone. He has absolutely nothing. But I would just assume that over the years, you just get over it because you're probably not going to see that money again.
Not Barkley. This is Barkley we're talking about. I mean, this guy is still talking stuff about San Antonio's, dude.
It's true.
Now it's become a bit, regardless of whatever he thinks, but that's always going to come up every time San Antonio makes the playoff. Every time there's a home game and he has to travel, all the way back to San Antonio, he's going to talk about the women. He's going to talk about the river. He's just basically just going to dumb down.
It's basically a skit for him. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's what we know from Barkley.
It's his brand.
The fans respond to it. They put up the posters. They go when they're live here in the city. They talk trash to Barkley. It's just part of the Spurs being in the playoffs. Is that if TNT's covering the Spurs, Barkley's going to be there, and he's just going to set off the fans. He's going to get them going, and we know that when the Spurs do well, he's going to praise them. He's going to be yelling Ginobili.
Exactly.
The same old Barkley things that we know. But I think that's what makes the TNT broadcast so great is that you have these former players that just have a good relationship with each other. They've played the game, they've been in the playoffs. Barkley don't have a ring though, but it's real interesting to see their point of view on everything.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just $5 million up there too. But it's not that surprising though, because I'm sure this story is repeated over and over on people that you don't even know about, that you never hear about it. I hate to bring no, never mind. But just a lot of people who are in the league for about 2-3 years and then out. Are these people car salesmen? Are they laying bricks or anything else like that?
And you bring up a great segue to my next kind of discussion, Frank. So Frank, have you been watching Ballers on HBO?
No, I have not.
Oh my God, Frank! This show is freaking amazing. Of course, The Rock is in it, but it's an awesome show that kind of deals with what you kind of just discussed right now.
I can't afford cable.
You can't afford cable. HBO Go. I'll give you my password.
Doing a podcast.
Yeah, it's just a great show that kind of talks about, it has to do with football, which you love, Frank. I know you love football, so I really think that you would love this show. So it talks about former football players, what happens when they retire and the money's gone. How do they deal with it? And it also deals with those that are experienced with losing their money, trying to help younger players that are out, just spending money frivolously, giving money away. They have these large entourages and they pay for everything. So they have like 20 people in an entourage and they're paying for every single thing, and then they don't understand why they don't have any money left.
Well, I mean, that's a common thing too. I mean, because think about it, and this is always going to be the case when you have kids getting all this money. I mean, basically in the NBA, when people were just drafting high schoolers, way back when, what are they doing now? You're talking about, imagine you straight out of high school, let's just say even just right out of college, here's 10 million.
Yeah.
Do it. And what do you do?
Crazy.
You come from a neighborhood that obviously, like, if it were me, it's like my mom wasn't making, but $30,000 a year, and she had to support, her kids with that way.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, someone to give me, at that age, 5 million,
1 million,
we'd still be doing this podcast to this day, dude.
500 grand. I mean, it doesn't matter what the amount is that, if you're not used to having a large amount of money like that, you simply end up wasting it because you're just not knowledgeable about what you need to do with money. And so what I've done, Frank, is I've kind of compiled a list of NBA stars that have basically lost their entire money. So we'll kind of go through the list, discuss it a little bit. Tell me what your thoughts are. So first off, we got to talk about former San Antonio Spur Dennis Rodman. So in Rodman's career, he made over $50 million, and it's all gone. And a lot of that was, to child support, of course. He was
in North Korea.
North Korea.
Those are expensive.
It really is, I'm curious, him going to North Korea and stuff. I would assume that
pay?
Kim Jong-un would have paid for everything, but maybe not because that country has no money. So
he has money, and that's kind of a good thing that's one thing I think about. I'll sit there and just wonder, is like on these trips that he goes to essentially be an ambassador to North Korea. I mean, who's paying for all this stuff? Is it him or Kim Jong-un?
Exactly, because we're given these images that North Korea has nothing. So I'm even surprised they have a plane that can fly across the ocean to come get Dennis Rodman and then fly him back. But of course, too, not just losing all that money to child support, but he was a big alcoholic. So lots of partying, lots of different women, marrying different people. So it's easy to see why his money would just completely disappear and stuff. So, interesting.
Well, it reminds me, too, because I remember years ago, what was it, Dan Cook from Express News?
Yep.
He once predicted, he said Dennis Rodman is probably going to be one of the saddest tragedies, by the end of his life and everything. It's like, because one thing, he was a pretty decent NBA player for most standards up there. I mean, leading in rebounds as long as he did. I mean, you really can't count that out. And he was pivotal in winning championships.
He really was. You think of the Bad Boys of Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Back-to-back championships. Came and played with the Spurs a little bit, gave the Spurs some attitude. It was interesting chemistry to have him and David Robinson together. Robinson, devout Christian. Dennis Rodman, I wouldn't even know what you would call him, but they were like oil and water. But they had a good chemistry. He brought the Spurs some attitude. Didn't go anywhere with the Spurs. Then he ended up leaving, going to Chicago, and then he helped Chicago and Michael Jordan get more championships.
Yeah, love him or hate him. I mean, he did make a difference wherever he went.
It really is.
Whether it be in publicity. I mean, you really do up your brand as an organization if he shows up.
It's really true.
And that's the case for a lot of other players up there.
Now, Frank, do you remember Kenny Anderson? Used to play for the Nets. Maybe haven't heard that name in a very, very long time.
Not in a long time. I assume that you're going to get to something right here.
Yeah. So I want to kind of talk about Kenny Anderson. As we all know, he played for the Nets. He was a shooting guard for them. He was a great player. Kenny Anderson earned over $60 million. Now, here's the crazy thing. He lost all that money. He had 8 kids to 5 different women, and then he filed divorce 3 times. $60 million completely gone. I don't even think we've heard anything about Kenny Anderson since like the early 90s. But that's just crazy to think. $60 million, all for kids and divorces. That's just nuts to me. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's what happens. There's so many legal fees. You're not taking care of your kids. You're not stepping up. All that money is going to be taken away from you. And that's basically what happened to Kenny Anderson.
Once again, you're young with a lot of money. You don't have necessarily the tools to handle all that money. I mean, you talk about, let's bring him back into play, like Donald Trump and everything. This guy didn't really earn his money. I mean, he earned to a certain extent, he did make his millions and everything, but he was actually born into money and stuff like that. And so, of course, if you're born into that money, you're not going to lose it all because you have a support structure that is in place to make sure that you don't lose it. If I'm a millionaire and I let my kids, run my business, they're going to damn well know, how to run that business and not take certain risks. However, if you're young and someone gives you, I know it's not 60 million, but a lot of money, of course, it's just basically just going out in a theme park, with a blank check and just having fun.
It's 100% true, and that show on HBO Ballers really does cover that. And I think that you brought up a good point too, discussing support structure, is that the NBA has gone leaps and bounds creating this program for rookies coming into the league to talk about like, hey, this is your money. This is what's happening to it. This is what happens when you retire. This is what the Players Association does for you. This is why you have to save. This is why you have to be wise. And I want to say they even go over like, your friends and family, that you grew up with, they're going to say, you owe me. Hey, aren't you going to cover? They're going to give you guult trips and stuff like that.
So, Allen Iverson is one of the biggest.
And he's on that list. So we'll get to Allen Iverson in a little bit. But I'm glad that you brought him up. So we just discussed Rodman, Kenny Anderson, Eddie Curry used to play for the Mavs. He made over $70 million, and he lost it all due to his lavish lifestyle. Yes. Mansions everywhere, yachts. He even had his own personal chef at his home, even when he wasn't there, earning $72,000 to make meals whenever he wanted.
It shows. It really shows.
$72,000 to be a personal chef. How awesome is that gig? Because if you think about it, maybe 3 meals a day if he's home. If not, you're just kicking back at the mansion too, I guess. And my question is, do you get to go home? If you're making $72,000 and Curry's like at 3 a.m, I want an omelet. Are you still there? Do you got to get up? That's what I'm curious. Or do you have to go over to the house and make the omelet?
I can't speak for him. I can only speak for myself. Because if I'm hungry, I'm going to eat, especially if I'm paying someone $70,000 to do it. I am going to eat because I feel like I'm wasting my money up there.
Exactly, yeah.
I want you to make me a Big Mac. Don't buy me one, make me one. And of course, eventually I get as big as he did.
Yeah, and that's the curious thing as well is that, $72,000. I don't even know. Is that like a good price range for a professional chef? I don't know. Do they earn more than that, or is $72,000 a big gig for a chef?
Does it really matter? All you got to do is just keep them well fed at that point and be at your phone 24/7.
No kidding. Jeez. Okay, Sean Kemp. Everybody remembers Sean Kemp. Played with the Seattle Sonics. Took them to the finals. Never got them over the hump. They never won an NBA title. Oh yeah, big upset with the Denver Nuggets. It was the first time that an 8 seed beat a number 1 seed, and of course I think we all remember.
Football on the floor and everything.
That iconic picture of Dikembe Mutombo on the floor.
I'm making a gesture of a basketball being hugged and everything, which is very, very
very revealing of this podcast and how it goes. So Sean Kemp made over $92 million, and he lost it all to the 7 kids that he had. Just on child support, it's completely gone. And that's just, as we start mentioning more and more NBA players, as you can see, Frank, these amounts are just getting higher and higher. And just to think of $92 million just gone.
Again, it's the tools and everything, but what's really heartbreaking is like you're naming a lot of heroes that I had as a kid. Listening to these, Sean Kemp, loved him. Of course, Dennis Rodman, who loved him or hate him and stuff. But just the fact that you're talking about. Here we have 50 million, 60 million. Eddie Curry was 70 million, and then Sean Kemp with 92 million. This is a lot of money. Eventually we're gonna reach a point where it's like 2 billion, a total of people losing. Who's getting that money? And I'm not gonna blame people for trying to get their hands at it, but people need to be smarter about it. And if you don't have the tools, you need to develop them. And again, the NBA is going to do strides to try and remedy that situation.
And I think we keep bringing up support system and having the tools. And I think a good example of that right now is Klay Thompson from the Warriors. His dad actually manages his money and actually gives him an allowance to make sure that it's being
But it's
saved.
a total agreement. But he has to have it within him too. And again, is it parents at that point or something like that?
Yeah, because that's awesome that your dad's willing to help you with the money as well. But then you kind of think of all these like musicians or movie stars that have had their parents help them with the money, and then the parents have just taken the money for themselves.
That's a lot of faith up there, I can imagine.
I think watching the NBA finals and seeing his parents there, his family there, you kind of see that's a different relationship there. That he does have this strong support system. So good for Klay Thompson. Latrell Sprewell, remember him from the '99 finals with the Knicks against the Spurs. He earned over $100 million, and he lost it all due to his lavish lifestyles, buying yachts. He had mansions everywhere, completely flat broke. Yeah. Again.
Never buy a yacht. You're just going to choke away all that money.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's not just the yachts, but it's like these amazing cars that cost,
Well, basically, what people say, I know a lot of boat owners, what they say is just it's a hole in the water that you just pump money in. And the greatest day is when you buy your yacht and then when you sell your yacht. Of course, here in San Antonio, it's just a boat.
Yeah, because once this podcast takes off, we're going to get a yacht and put it in Canyon Lake.
Actually, you'll get a yacht. I'll just get a.
I think that's the overall goal. Is Frank and I are going to have a yacht. So, yeah.
I can't swim.
Yeah, good. That's a good thing.
I need a yacht.
Vin Baker, he earned over $100 million, lost it all to alcohol and gambling. And I want to say, though, like right now, he actually went to rehab, got himself better, and I want to say now he's a Starbucks manager, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he a successful manager?
I think he just started, so I don't know if he's had his 6-month review yet, Frank.
Man.
But I will report back on that once I find out how he's doing as a Starbucks manager.
Could we give him a call?
Maybe we will. Maybe we will.
We should give that.
We will find a Starbucks.
But then again, I mean, you can't go up to the guy and say, "Hey, you used to make $100 million, right? Order my coffee."
You're not going to charge me for this, are you?
Exactly. Call collect.
Exactly.
Is that a thing?
I don't know if people still call collect, Frank. Let's see. Antoine Walker, he made over $110 million. All that money went to his entourage. It was a legend of the entourage of Antoine Walker. He had an entourage of up to 70 people that were with him for every single thing. And so, kind of talking about that show on HBO Ballers, there is one athlete that The Rock is trying to help. The Rock's character is trying to help, and every time you see the guy's house, there's these lavish parties, there's all these people that are with him, and he would actually allow a friend of his to manage his money, and his friend would literally just be throwing dollar bills, not even dollar bills, like $20 bills, just anywhere he could, to just kind of show that he had money, even though it wasn't his money, and that athlete just kind of felt that he owed his friend, for helping him when he was younger and stuff, and so you kind of see that with Antoine Walker having an entourage of 70 people. 70 people. I don't even think I know 70 people that I want to hang out with at the same time.
I don't even know 70 people on Facebook. But you can see how easily that happens. I mean, because again, tools. It comes down to you grow up these people. You have a loyalty to them. And it just feels like you're kind of leaving them behind. If you get successful, you want to help those people out.
Right.
But of course, there's no telling that those people will take advantage of it, depending on who they are. I mean, like, for a lot of us, we have like a set core of friends. And I would think if I had $110 million, I'd put it someplace where I just buy you a house, buy you a car. I won't buy you a car, I'll buy you a house. And buy me a lavish yacht with an airplane and stuff on it.
And that's the funny thing is because, like, if I had that much money, I think the first thing I'd take care of is any debt. And I'd probably take care of the debt of any of my friends. That would be the gift. But once that's done, don't come begging me for money. I've already helped you out.
Exactly. Here's also the other thing too. Is just like again, I don't think we lead lives where we're hanging out in the club or anything else like that.
No.
I mean, but you're talking about maybe it's a type of lifestyle where it's like everybody else is doing it. You have this cohesiveness with a team. When you have a team that just clicks, you may rather stay at home, but everybody else is going clubbing, and then you get all this peer pressure saying, "Hey, come with us," and then you got to show it off. I mean, so it's just the way I see it is just kind of just peer pressure, maybe. Who knows?
Really
you got to show your ego,
and it does have to do with your family's background, and then you kind of having that survivor's remorse. You made it out of the hood, you made your life better, and then you kind of want to bring that to everybody that was in the hood with you. You know what I mean?
You got to show off because you want to be the person who's the savior.
Exactly,
essentially like that. You want the statue. You want you want to be remembered by that. And how do you do that? Sometimes not always money. David Robinson does it great. I mean, he established education. I mean, what more value to a community than teaching people, to be less ignorant.
And I think that speaking of David Robinson, I think he's the flip side of this. And I think what we'll do next time we get together and kind of chat, we'll kind of talk about NBA stars that have done really well with their money and what they've done with it to kind of better themselves, better the community. Because I find that just very interesting. But we got two more people on this list. Next, we have the great Scottie Pippen.
See, that is... I recently heard of this, too. I mean, because I always thought he was doing good, because you always see him on commercials, see him in everything, and maybe that's a reason why you see him on commercials.
And I think it has to do with his turnaround, and that's why you see him so much. But Pippen made over $120 million. He led a huge, lavish lifestyle. He paid $4 million for a corporate jet that he never even used. He never even touched it. It stayed at the airport, but he had it. And I don't know if that matters or not, to be able to tell people, well, I got a plane.
Well, I mean, Tracy McGrady did the same thing, too.
Exactly.
I mean, he bought a plane up there. I mean, he used a little bit more up there.
Yeah,
But here's the thing. I mean, you talk about yachts and everything with Iverson and everything else like that. A plane, it's a bigger multiplier up there because with my experience, but I don't own a private jet. But I've done a lot of research.
But you take pictures
I've actually,
of them.
well, yes, I take a lot of pictures of aircraft. No, but I actually helped out in selling one. I did a lot of advertisements for one in particular, just selling. And there's a whole industry of people selling these things. They're like houses. I mean, they're like realtors, for planes. And if you have one particular corporate jet, you're not buying them used. You're buying them off something else.
Right.
But the thing about that is like the costs that are involved in a plane. I mean, because you have to have a pilot qualified that you have to pay full time. You can kind of pick out pilots that'll fly your aircraft for you, but they got to be certified, certain amount of hours and everything. Some of them are certified within the aircraft specifically. But the thing is like you also need a co-pilot. You need two pilots, on board these private planes. And that costs a lot of money. Not only that, fuel costs a lot of money.
Right,
it takes a lot of energy to lift something off the ground and then to go on a whim. However, if you can trade off that cost by getting you to, on a private jet from San Antonio to San Francisco, it takes about 2 hours.
Right.
2.5 hours. And if you ever flown commercially, a lot longer than that. But it's when you have something like that and you don't even use it, again, it has to be more of a status symbol. You're not
It really is.
It's obvious
just like
it's not being
you
good.
take people to the hangar and be like, look at my plane. That's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
But 120 million down the drain, bad investments.
They're expensive. That's $60 million right there.
And then bad investments. He dealt with some very opportunistic attorneys that kind of took money away from him and stuff like that. But the fortunate thing for Scottie Pippen is that he's kind of turned his life around. He's now a senior advisor to Bulls president and CEO Michael Reinsdorf. So he's doing a whole lot better. He's actually one of those survivor stories, I guess you could say. He's not completely flat broke. He has a job.
But it shows you credence to the fact that if you're popular in the NBA and you're essentially a legend, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, everything, you can go bankrupt. But the thing is, your name is a brand in itself. As long as you didn't do anything like Josh Duggar or anything else like that or Jared or anything else like that, or do something that's so taboo that your name is just trash at that point. You can always do it, even if it's just like signing cards for $5.
Okay, so you bring up a pretty good point about names. So let's talk about the last guy on the list. Yeah. You've mentioned him a couple times already, Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
Iverson has this big name. Everybody remembers Iverson. You remember him taking the Sixers to the finals against the Lakers. When they went, game one of that series, they went into LA. They beat the Lakers on their home court, but then the Lakers came back and just swept them. I think it ended 4-1. But everybody remembers Allen Iverson, came from a rough life, became this NBA star that, he couldn't miss a basket. Everybody wanted to be him, but he wasn't the best behaved athlete. He fought with people. He talked trash to people.
He was a team killer, essentially. He could give you 40
really
points
was. He was poison. He was poison in a team.
Away. This is old news. A lot of people know this stuff.
Yeah, and so with Iverson, 150 million lost all on jewelry, cars, alcohol, and gambling. And the big thing for me is I always get a kick when you see a list like this and you see what they spent money on is when you see jewelry on there. And you think about this type of person that's on TV, on TMZ, that's just covered in these gold chains, rings, everything else like that, and it looks so bad.
Glasses,
but it's a status symbol for people, But 150 million gone, just completely gone. And you don't hear a success story with Iverson saying like, oh, he's the senior advisor for the Sixers. Hell no, the Sixers don't want anything to do with them.
Exactly.
And that's the crazy thing is because his name is worth something. It's just not worth as much as a Pippen, Jordan, Robinson, Barkley. I would even put Barkley in there, Drexler, Olajuwon. Those big names that some teams would, Bird, that some teams would want their franchises associated with. No one's going to be saying, oh, Allen Iverson, come, pop popcorn for us.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, what is he doing now? It's not like he's going to manage a Burger King. You're going to still have people they're essentially going to help him out no matter what. I guarantee you, like, if someone recognizes him, he's probably not paying for a meal and stuff. Of course, maybe later we'll sit there and, find out something that he got kicked out of a restaurant for refusing to walking out on a bill or anything else like that, which isn't surprising with a lot of people like that. Eventually your brand starts to expire a couple days before you realized it, and then you're not going in places like that. But like his is an interesting case for me, for not only because it's $150 million, which all of us combined, even if we won the lotto, we wouldn't be making this much money.
No.
And this is just based off sheer talent. That's a tragedy.
And that's the other thing too, Frank, is like you bring up the amount of money. These amounts that we've discussed are when the collective bargaining agreement were so much lower than it is now. And what it will be in the next couple of years. And so if we did this list in, say, 10 years, the amount of money that's on that list with these players that would have lost everything, which I hope that list would be smaller with everything that the NBA is doing. But, that list, the amount is going to be absolutely outrageous. Because, Anthony Davis from New Orleans just signed the biggest contract of all time with his extension to stay in New Orleans. And I think his contract is worth over $120 million for 4 years. 5 years, I should say. Mm-hmm. And so,
that's assuming he stays healthy. I mean,
exactly.
One thing, it surprises me. A lot of people don't really understand this is that, there's guaranteed money, which is a set amount, what you sign over, and that's money. It could be as little as $20 million. But then again, a lot of these are incentive laden things.
See, but they're
got to make the playoffs.
No. That's where you're wrong, because the NBA is different than the NFL. The NFL has a lot of contracts that are done that way. So an NFL player will get a contract for $100 million. Yeah, that's great and all, but it will say in the contract you're only guaranteed $50 million, so that if a player gets hurt, he's only going to get that $50 million. The franchise is off of that. In the NBA, it's different because yes, they can have contracts like that, but most of your 10 people on the roster, your first 10 people, all have guaranteed contracts. Whatever that they sign that contract for, they are guaranteed to get that money.
So you're saying Davis is going to get $140 million? He's
going to get it no matter what. It's a guaranteed contract, so he will get it. But if you look at, think about the Spurs, okay? You have your Kawhi Leonard, your LaMarcus Aldridge, your Tim Duncan, your Manu Ginobili. All those people have guaranteed contracts, but they also have in their contracts options that if they sign it, then they'll get like a bigger bonus the following year. That's kind of what they're doing with Ginobili and with Duncan. But if you look at somebody that's on that has a Spurs contract like Jimmer Fredette, he actually signed for a $100,000 deal, but only $500,000 of that is guaranteed. So if he doesn't make the roster, the Spurs are still on the hook to pay him $500,000. But he only makes the $100,000 if he makes the roster. If he's one of the 15 people on the roster, he'll get that entire contract. You also have Reggie Williams, who is on contract with the Spurs, but it's a non-guaranteed deal. If the Spurs keep him, and they have until January to do so, Williams will actually make $1.1 million. But until the Spurs say, we're going to keep him, we're going to keep that contract, he's actually getting paid nothing right now. The Spurs don't owe him anything. And I still feel the Spurs are going to waive him. I've been saying it for the longest time. They're going to get rid of Reggie Williams because they want a spot open, and I'm really hoping that Jimmer gets it. But, they're going to waive Reggie Williams. When they waive him, Reggie Williams will get no money from the Spurs. That's just how the NBA contracts work. But it is a very interesting thing for you to kind of bring that up. The NFL does it so much different, but I think the risk of injury is so much higher in the NFL. Think about how many running backs, tear their ACL, how many quarterbacks get their shoulders and arms messed up. And so from an NFL point of view, the contracts are just going to be different. And plus, I bet you in the collective bargaining agreement for the NFL, it's in there to protect the owners. It's just very interesting how the contracts work. So guys, I kind of put an interesting list together. As we know, the year is 2015. Very soon, we will be going into 2016, which means that it is election year. So what I've kind of done is put a list together of NBA business that is associated with politics right now. So it's not necessarily NBA players, but people that are in the NBA business and where their political donations are going at this moment in time. Right now, Hillary Clinton has more donors involved in the NBA business than all other candidates combined. Chris Christie is receiving the most NBA money thanks to Cavs owner Dan Gilbert. He's donated $750,000 to Christie's campaign. He's also the only person from the NBA that's associated with Chris Christie's campaign. Jeb Bush has more than Hillary in terms of NBA donations, as he has the DeVos family, which are the owners of the Magic, part of his super PAC. They've donated over $50,000 to that PAC. Of the 7 NBA personalities that have donated to Bush, 5 of them are owners. Only 2 of the 16 Clinton donors are owners. Pelicans owner Tom Benson is the only one donating to 2 different candidates, both to Bush and to Jindal. Not a single NBA player has given money to any one candidate as of yet. Trump, the Donald, has not gotten any traction whatsoever in the NBA. Now here's some notables. For the Clinton campaign, she's receiving donations from the owners of the Brooklyn Nets, the Indiana Pacers, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, former Commissioner David Stern, Jason Kidd, and Magic Johnson, while Jeb Bush has been receiving money from Pat Riley, the owners of the Orlando Magic, Oklahoma City Thunder, and Atlanta Hawks.
I always find it interesting, especially with these super PACs that have come up in this day and age, is the fact that, I mean, for one thing, it's all money and how it's going on to these political campaigns. You have to wonder exactly what they're doing it for, and it's not anything for any sinister reasons, like
right.
A lot of people, like buying or bragging or anything like that. But one of the things about it is that you're basically buying access to a particular political candidate or someone in office and anything like it. For example, if I were to donate like $50,000 towards someone's campaign, what I would initially do is, like, if I had a problem, with zoning laws or anything else like that, and permits were going slow to a crawl, what I'd eventually do is kind of have an individual that I've paid, essentially, through campaign donations. What it does is it buys me access. So if I was having a problem with some of the bureaucracy in there, if you have the right candidate under your campaign or under your political action committee, what will happen is a lot of times they'll be like, oh, I remember you, let's get this done. They'll make a few phone calls and things kind of get underway. So, like, I'm really curious as to what it is. When it comes to these things, it's not necessarily a support for one candidate or another. It's more because these guys are in it for themselves. It's like, how can you help us? But we got to help you first.
And I think you bring up a good point, Frank, because if you look at who's donating to who, I mean, Jeb Bush, former governor of Florida, is receiving donations from the owners of the Orlando Magic. So, of course, I'm sure they're looking, hey, Mr. Bush, we help you a little bit. You'll be able to help us out a little bit. They probably have a standing relationship when Bush was governor there. So, of course, that kind of makes sense. Same thing with Pelicans owner Tom Benson. He's donating to Bush, but at the same time, he's also giving money to Bobby Jindal, who is the governor of Louisiana, where his team is.
Well, of course. And, the thing about this, too, is, like, some of this is a little bit important. Not, regardless of whatever it is that you support candidates or one thing or another, one thing about is that this kind of tells you, what direction or what the owners are also thinking about, too. For example, Tom Benson, when you donate to a campaign such as Bush and Jindal, you're really talking about Florida and Louisiana.
Exactly.
And stuff. So at some point, maybe nothing, but also it could say something about the future. Are there any other interests that are happening in Florida or anything else like that? It certainly is kind of a small indicator if something's developed up there, but all in all, or they could just be friends, most importantly.
Yeah, and it kind of does bring up, why are Adam Silver and David Stern donating to Clinton as well? Of course, Hillary does have strong ties to the state of New York, and I think that's kind of why you also see the owner of the Brooklyn Nets donating money to her. She has those roots in those areas. But it is very interesting, like, why would Stern and Silver be donating to Hillary? What do you think, Frank?
Mm-hmm. Well, mainly, I would say just essentially because these relationships, they just don't happen overnight. I mean, behind the scenes, in certain types of like luncheons and things like fundraising and stuff, what you do see are a lot of people just mingling, just talking, just letting people know that they're there. What's funny is with my experience through like political action committees is that a lot of times when you have two candidates going against each other, you support one, but if you find the other person is winning, what happens is you give them a little bit money to say, hey, listen, we're there.
Right,
because you don't want to totally shut them out there.
Don't forget about me. Right.
It could be a lot of things of something as simple as just they're just hedging their bets at what they perceive is going to be a winner. And you want to make sure that you get there first because with a lot of candidates, they will help out those people that help them first.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the thing, because just looking at this list and kind of discussing it here with you, Frank, is that the one amount that just kind of blows me away is Dan Gilbert, $750,000 going to Chris Christie.
That's a lot of money, by the way.
That's a lot of money, but at the same time, he's donating to a candidate that right now is just not gaining any traction. Right now on the Republican side of things, it is all about Trump. He's kind of the main person right now. Doesn't surprise me that he doesn't have any traction in the NBA, but $750,000 to Chris Christie that'll probably be out, in some of the first preliminaries. So it'll be interesting to see, where does Dan Gilbert go from there? Because obviously this guy has no problem giving his money away. As we know, the Cavs are very over the luxury tax. I think he's going to have a tax bill of $96 million, something crazy like that. So he's not afraid to spend money. But if Christie does bow out early, where does Dan Gilbert put his attention to?
Well, I guarantee you, for one thing, is that Chris Christie will remember Dan Gilbert. If he calls,
Right.
he will pick up that phone. So it's just a matter of what's the long game of this, or if there is one. I mean, because $750,000 is
right.
a lot of money. I mean, when the average campaign, you're talking about $1,000 grand, but if you really want to get noticed and you want that access to that politician, $50,000, $20,000, and it gains you a little bit of time, especially during a busy period.
And you bring up a good point too, Frank, talking about amounts and stuff. The interesting thing is, Hillary Clinton does have the most donors. She has 16 that are affiliated with the NBA, but they're all small amounts. I want to say that the amounts range from $250 up to maybe $25,000. So it's not that much money as compared to everyone else, but it is still very interesting to kind of see where that money is going and what's the reasoning behind it. So as we get closer to 2016 and as we get closer to the election season, it'll be interesting to see who else's name gets on these lists and if NBA players start to donate to these candidates as well.
And, that would be a really, really key issue up there. I mean, because, again, like you said, as the election goes along, I mean, this is where people donate the most. In a midterm election, really not many, really not a lot of money flowing through, at least in the national campaign, statewide and et cetera, money tends to be, handled that way. But, with popularity comes a lot of money. And with every presidential election, that's exactly what's going to happen, which, it kind of gives me, it makes me think about, in terms of like Clinton and everything, with the Nets, the Pacers, Adam Silver and stuff. But when you get to the actual players, is like how many candidates are going to be essentially pro-union. So
right.
Are they going to be donating to essentially more towards the left with some Democrats, like a Hillary Clinton and everything? It'd be interesting to see, because I would almost say like a lot of the owners would probably put their money into something that's more of a conservative branch rather than, and then the players actually go towards the left, with a lot of the Democrats and everything else like that. So it'd be really interesting to see how that plays out.
It is, and especially because we know that the collective bargaining agreement will be ending very, very soon. And, the owners are already saying like, hey, we're not making enough money. The NBA players are already saying we need more money. So it kind of looks right now that the two sides are already getting ready to kind of go towards possibly a strike at the beginning of 2017, 2018. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, because both sides are already laying that groundwork to say we want more money. And we know that this salary cap is going to explode with the brand new NBA and TV deal that they just signed. I believe the cap right now is at $71 million for a team. And when that TV deal goes in, that salary cap is going to go up to possibly $120 million. Now, that doesn't mean that NBA franchise will be able to get more players, but that money will actually go on to the players. So, we can talk about like the Spurs, LaMarcus Aldridge. Right now, he has a deal every year's paying him a little over $20 million. When this deal kicks in, that deal will actually increase to 25, possibly close to $30 million. And when it's so much money that we're talking about that it just becomes a number. You really can't see the value behind it, because it really is just a number in a bank account. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens if we do go to a strike, or if the owners, hate to say cave, but they actually give to players' demands, or the players cave and kind of give to what the owners are wanting to do. So we'll see what what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, it pays to have a lot of money behind a candidate because they will help you out publicly. I mean, it's not just essentially, it's more about optics
Right.
and everything. If you can have like Hillary Clinton speak out about that, then all of a sudden you have divisive roles up there. It's out in the public. More people start talking about it, and there's more pressure towards one side. And I mean, you've seen it, especially with every time it expires and stuff. You always talk about the lockouts. You always talk about the strikes and things
Right.
like that. Whether it being not just basketball, baseball, football, and whatever, but then it starts becoming a popularity contest.
It really
Who can
does.
get their message
It really
out
does.
more
Yeah.
effectively than the other ones.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing is like, it's very early in the political season. I'm very curious to see what other candidates will actually appear on this list. On the left, we do have Hillary. Bernie Sanders is probably right now the only legitimate candidate that's running against her. We still have to see if there's going to be anybody else on the left that's going to kind of join that race. On the Republican side, I mean, it's really like who isn't running right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so, I think donations on that side you'll start to see increased once people start to make it through the primaries. But it'll be interesting to see. What I want to see is who the players back. When players start giving their money, that's when you kind of see, okay, why are they doing that? What's behind the logic of them going for, a Jeb Bush or a Hillary Clinton? Why are they donating that money? That'll be the interesting thing to see.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll mention that again as we get closer to the 2016 election.
It'll develop as soon as the closer we get to it. I mean, because right now there's just so much out there.
Exactly.
You're just trying to get noticed.
All right, and now we're going to segue into our segment that we call On the Fly, where basically we're just going to kind of talk about anything that pops into our head. So we can kind of talk about the Spurs. I can just drop some stuff that's kind of going on.
You can. I mean, because right here I'm totally ignorant at that
yeah,
point.
and then you
too.
can just kind of jump in with me whatsoever. And so if you need to
See, that's
edit
what I'm
that out or
wondering. Like, if
whatever.
I should just ask the question, because I know if I go up there with phony humor, because I'm like, that's not even guaranteed money. Oh no, you're full of shit. No, they get all this money and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
See, now all of a sudden it's like all the comments are like, oh, fuck, you didn't know what he's doing. I don't care. I can go have sex when I get home. Just stop that. Make money.
Shit is real jacked up, dude. That's why they're so cautious about giving big contracts. In the NFL, they fuck them big time. That's why all of them are
The
all
NFL,
bitchy.
yeah,
That's why they're all
they
bitchy about their
fuck them
contracts.
over. Because,
Yeah, and they fucked over, when it came
and
to
it's all bullshit too,
Yeah.
because the owners know, like, hell yeah, I'll give you $120 million, but I'm only going to guarantee $40 million of that.
Yeah.
But it's because they know these guys aren't going to be able to last.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not loyal at all.
to the
No,
ball.
hell no.
So,
Yeah, I don't
huge
think that's going to
difference.
change, especially with the way it's geared in college football to begin with. I mean, shit, look at Manziel.
Yeah.
I am still on the fence with Manziel. I mean,
Yeah, he's still a rookie contract, but
No.
he's not going to.
you still think 3 years? I still think just 3 years.
Here's the thing, and I think we both can agree on this, is that when it comes to the NFL, those kids that do well in college do not translate well to the NFL game. It's always those college football players that you don't really hear about that
Well,
do
Brady,
that
I mean,
do
come on.
that they lead their team to wins. They have their struggles, whatever. Those are the players that usually become successful in the NFL.
I think it's more of a character thing. I think that a character and then really like looking at their actual assets, what they have. Like for instance, Peyton Manning's a good example.
Yeah.
Manning was drafted number 1, and he pretty much has been consistent through his whole career, very good.
Well, look at Liner. Look at a lot of top quarterbacks and everything. And what are they doing now? It's
Sanchez, Liner, basically every USC quarterback.
well, yeah, exactly.
But the quarterbacks in general are the ones that where you're thinking about that. It's just
Well,
like-
I
No,
mean,
it's
that's what
true.
that's what
Yeah,
the league
yeah.
needs right now. I mean, because you can get by on running back by committee, a running game by committee. I mean, the time of Emmitt Smith for the time being is gone.
Yeah.
You're not going to see anything like that.
And that's why the
Receivers
Cowboys
are
will suck
dominant
again
at
this year, is because they have no running back.
I think they got very, very lucky last year. This year, everybody's they've got high expectations. They're not going to do a damn.
They're not
going
gonna
to
do anything,
I
yeah.
would say barely 500.
Yeah, and it's funny that we talk about that because we brought that up on the radio show.
I'm
is that
telling you.
We asked people to call in and say, hey, do you think Tony Romo can lead the Cowboys to Super Bowl?
That's the wrong question.
No,
I
no,
think.
no. But it's not him, and that was the bigger question, to see what people would say, because we understand that it's not Romo. Because if you look at Romo's stats and everything like that, like, he's done amazing for a quarterback. He leads the Cowboys in history of the amount of yards thrown, I think touchdowns, all that stuff. But the thing is that he can't do it by himself, and that's where Romo gets screwed, is because everything is on his shoulders, and he's not that playmaker. He can't.
I think he's an above average quarterback. But nothing more, you know.
Where did Romo go to college?
Huh?
Where did Romo go to college?
It doesn't matter. I don't even know where Brady went to college. You're asking the wrong thing. I don't follow
Brady
college
went to
other
Michigan.
than
How
the
do you
big
not
money.
know Brady didn't go to Michigan? You should know. You love Ohio State. You should know.
Shut up.
How did you not know that?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
so where did Romo go to college?
I have no idea. Texas State.
No. Do you know where Romo went to college?
Oh, it's some fucking no-name place. It's like Northern Iowa.
No, not Northern. He went to Eastern Carolina.
Stupid.
He was a pirate. He was a butt pirate.
Okay.
But,
It was the Cube's direction. I knew that.
So,
but again, look how well he's done in the NFL because he has done well. You can't take that away from him. He's
no,
just.
but I'm not saying he's an elite quarterback. I think he's an above average quarterback.
I agree with you.
No.
No. But what we're talking
He needs a
about
line.
is, we're talking about the Cowboys as a team. He has no support there. He has no players. He has two receivers.
He's gonna get hurt.
Witten and Bryant. That's about it. No one else steps up. So when the defense comes at him, they already know he's going to throw to Dez. He has no running game right now. Every running back they had, this committee, they're all injured. There's no way the Cowboys are going to do anything this year. There's no way.
No,
Defense will be good. Sean Lee's back.
He's gonna
You know.
be happy with the Dolphins.
I am. No. They've broken my heart so many times, but I'm like, I'm saying they're gonna go not 8-8, but maybe two games over.
They're saying their defense looks fucking amazing.
They
Really?
Oh yeah. With Sugan
it's
there?
preseason. It's preseason.
Oh
I don't
crap!
get it.
I forgot he was.
I know, but
there,
who
yeah.
jumped on the first snap of the
I
preseason?
completely forgot.
Kill people, dude.
Yeah, I
I know,
completely
I know.
forgot that he was on that team.
Yeah, and the thing is like I hated him when he was in what you
Nebraska?
call it? Yeah, shut up, Detroit. And then now I'm like, okay. It's funny how like your allegiance, I mean that guy could have done everything, like killed a couple,
I'll never forget when he stepped on the player. Like he just.
And then he acted like,
And there's like,
And then, like, no, I didn't do anything. Like, really, you stepped up like about 2 feet from the ground, but you didn't know you stepped
So
on
I thought
anybody.
this was a smush video. But no, I mean that's the thing. I think people have their hopes up too high or their expectations too high up there. Texans, they're gonna suck. I don't want them to suck. They're gonna be horrible.
They're gonna suck. They're gonna
And
be, yeah.
I feel. Oh man.
I'm hearing a lot of people say Packers are going to be amazing this year.
But you know what? You could say that. That's like saying.
Yeah,
That's
but
like
a
saying
big
winning in
thing,
6.
too. That's a big thing too. Is like Nelson is really going to hurt them. But I'm curious to see what happens. But let's talk college football because I really think Ohio State's going to repeat.
I would agree.
Yeah, I really think Ohio State's going to repeat.
They've got basically. Come on. Technically, they got.
They
Like
have three quarterbacks on the field at the same
I know,
time.
and one of them's a receiver now. It's
Yeah.
tough.
I'm like, what? Like, how awesome is that?
But that's what I love about college. You never know.
You never know. It's true.
Absolutely, because they just have an off game, and all of a sudden. But the thing I love about it is what happened last year was the prime example, the one example that you wanted for a playoff to happen.
Yes.
Ohio State wouldn't have been in that championship game,
Not at all.
and had it not been for the playoff, they just proved everybody and shut it
They
down.
did. I mean,
the system
they shut
works
down
better
Oregon
than last up there.
because everybody was like, "Oh, Oregon's going to take this easily." They shut
thought
down
so, too.
Oregon. Oh, I thought so too. Because I was expecting Oregon to just.
until I saw them on the field that I was like,
Well, I had seen some games with Oregon, so I had expected so much more. But Ohio
Did you
State,
notice how much bigger that they were?
yeah,
I thought Ohio State was done. After their second quarter, I'm like, screw it, dude. I'm betting down up there, and they ended up winning.
State had was as big as the linebacker that freaking.
Oh, you should play pick'ems with us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, I suck at that. I could try to play, but I suck.
It's $40.
It's $40.
Okay, really.
Yeah, what we say is like
Well, it
there's
starts next week. If you
really
want
like
to,
5 people.
You can have some time to give the $40 so that you can
right.
play. So just
Oh, yeah.
let me know. But
because we're always good for
Yeah, yeah,
unless I'm losing, then I'm
what
like,
you call it? Yeah, but I think Ohio State will repeat. Bama will be strong like normal, but the SEC is just going to kill them. I'm hearing some good things about the Aggies. Like they're going to actually be better. Everybody's picking them to be like at the bottom of the SEC, but I'm hearing some good things coming out of College Station. So I'll be curious to see if they actually do anything.
I don't have an interest in that because I think
I
they're
don't
going to
either.
be like. I mean, they're not going to be terrible. I
No.
think they'll be average.
Yeah, and
But they're in the SEC. I mean,
and I think this is it's year 2 of Charlie Strong at Texas.
They say they're gonna suck.
Yeah, they're gonna suck so bad. They have no
again,
quarterback.
I put them right there with the Cowboys.
They're going to get killed by Notre Dame next week. I mean, I really
wait.
feel that way. And then I actually think Strong's out next year. I think they get rid of him after year 3. 3 years. He's right now. Texas is going through what A&M went through. So Strong is their Franchione. He changed the culture. He did all this stuff, and he couldn't do anything with them. And I kind of feel the same thing with Strong.
Oh, I didn't even think of it like that.
And then here's the other thing,
because I would
too,
think with that takes a slow process. You need at least 5 years, I think. And
Yeah.
but then again, you're
but they're impatient.
but you're in the Big 12 with
have,
10 teams. I mean,
you
come
have
on.
every resource imaginable.
have a
It's
network for
Texas.
that. They have a
Yeah,
network
it's
for that.
Texas.
Such bullshit.
People should be begging to go there, but they're not going to go there when you tell them you got to be in your dorm room by 8:00. Say your prayers, go to bed. You know what I mean? Kids. Here's the thing. This is what I call Notre Dame syndrome, and this is why I always feel Notre Dame doesn't get any great players, and the only reason that people rank them so high is because of the name Notre Dame. Right. Notre Dame is a Catholic university. Okay, that it's a damn good school. It really is. Kids with talent aren't that strong in the classroom. They're just not. I hate to stereotype a group of kids that way, but it's the truth. A kid that can be your, 100-plus yard. Yeah. They're not going to be fantastic at calculus. They're not going to even know what physics is. So they're not going to be able to get into a Notre Dame.
Why do you think all these scandals happen?
Exactly.
Out there? And,
exactly.
And again, this is nothing that's hidden. Everybody knows that this stuff happens.
Right.
I mean,
Even Duke is a good.
I was going to say that.
Duke is a very hard university. From
Oh,
what I
yeah.
understand, it's very difficult to get in.
And they're always up
It
there.
is.
They always get the best basketball talent. You're not telling me all those guys are like.
It's
masters.
bull. Yeah, there's no way. I mean, there's no freaking way. But that's the problem with Notre Dame is that, they blanked Purdue. They won 60-0. Oh, the Irish are going to come get a national title. No, because when they go up against a real team, they get slaughtered, which is what happened with the national championship a couple years ago when Alabama just completely destroyed them.
I loved it.
And I loved it too because the only people that thought Notre Dame were going to win were Notre Dame fanboys. That can't get past the Newt Rockney.
That's
They
why I
can't get
like
past
whenever
Rudy. They can't get past that bullshit and understand that Notre Dame is not an elite team. And that is why I feel that what's starting to happen with all these big conferences, and I think the Big Ten's doing it now, is that they are, with their non-conference games, it has to be within the big conferences. So eventually, the Big Ten teams are not going to be able to play Notre Dame, Navy, Army, anybody that's independent. They have to play a big, and so that's where Notre Dame is going to be forced to go into a conference, even though they don't want to because of the money, because they make too much money on their name alone.
Well, I mean, no
and the
one wants to
NBC
see
contract.
Notre Dame lose. I mean, I remember back in the 80s, too, they lost one game. They're like, oh, man, they got to go to a bowl game or something like that. But, I mean, you nailed it right there. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. I mean, with sports programs, it's not about scholarships.
Oh,
it's not about them.
Yeah,
we know that. I mean, and it's one of those things like, we bring in money to the school. That's true, but they put a lot of money into those programs, though. So, if you get, a small percentage of millions of billions of dollars, that's still a lot of money to that program. But, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, and this is not a surprise to anyone, but I really wish people would just go out there and say it. Like, football is about the money, and of course that always comes down to, should we play our players and everything else like that. But what it is your brand, no one wants to see Notre Dame lose. You do that, their net worth goes down.
Right.
And, oh my God, we're an academic institution now suddenly.
Yeah,
up there.
yeah,
That's why you don't see Harvard or Yale, out there in the bowl.
not at all.
They win a game, and you're like, good for you.
Good for the smart kids.
Oh, bless you. Oh, participate. Here's your participation medal. And there you go. Oh, great. And then everybody turns to Alabama. And
But it's true, and I mean, and then back to Texas real quick. The whole thing with, like I'm saying, Strong is going to be out by year 3 because Texas has no patience. They have every resource possible. They have every donor possible. Mm-hmm. There is no reason why that's not an elite team, but it is because of Strong's culture.
Well,
and the I'm sorry to cut you off there, Frank, but I just have to kind of get in that you have to understand the drama that was happening before Strong was hired. You had all these boosters that were making deals with Saban and with other people saying, you're coming down here. Then you had the people pushing Mac Brown out. Then you had the new AD coming in, and he basically said, to hell with all of you, I'm going to get the guy that I want. And then he went and hired Strong. Strong that wasn't even on the radar for anybody. But he did it on purpose to say, I'm the AD, and this is how we're going to do things.
See, and that's what I was going to bring up earlier is the fact that, I mean, this is really what football is about. Yes, there's the display on the field, but like you're looking at the tip of the iceberg. It is politics. I mean, it really is. It amazes me how much similar real politics is. It's not what you're seeing on TV or anything else like that. You're talking about, again, the political action committees or like us sending a delegate, out there to talk to someone so we can get a permit or anything like that. But I mean, you're talking about, the inner workings, all the cogs and everything, the machinery that's in place, that's moving. Like, for example, when I say politics, I mean, hey, I don't want that guy to be coach. If he's coach, I'm going to give you less money on
Exactly.
it. And the alumni have a lot of things. Well, not necessarily the alumni, but like the important alumni, people with a lot of money that are donating to that. You don't want to piss them off. And again, if you're not winning, you're going to piss them off. But if you get the wrong coach in there, you don't want those donors to just give up.
And it's funny you say donors too, because I just have this vision of Red McCombs going up to the new AD, Patterson, right?
Never went.
It's just, oh yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But I could just see him going up there and being like, I don't want this guy. Well, who do you want? I don't know. I just don't want this guy.
Exactly. and that happens all the time, yeah.
Well, and it reminds me, I remember a couple years ago, Jesse Ventura was on Howard Stern. And Stern asked him, like, so being governor of Minnesota, what was the worst kind of experience or meeting that you had? And he goes, Red McCombs. And he goes, well, elaborate. And so Jesse Ventura goes, well, BJ Red McCombs is a guy from Texas. He was the owner of the Minnesota Vikings. And, at this point, he was threatening to move the team because he wanted a new stadium. So he set up a meeting with me, since I'm the governor, to try to see, like, what we could work out. So he goes, it's time for the meeting. Red McCombs walks in, sits down, and Jesse Ventura says, hi, Red, how can I help you? And Red McCombs tells him, well, I want a new stadium. And he goes, okay, so what's your plan? I don't have a plan. I want a new stadium. He brought nothing to the table. He was expecting Jesse Ventura to whip out this brand new plan and have the taxpayers pay for everything for this brand new stadium in Minnesota. And he said the guy just had no clue. Like he was just adamant that he was going to cave and build him the stadium with him not having to really do anything. Mm-hmm. He goes, he didn't bring a plan, didn't bring, a design for a stadium, absolutely nothing. And so I always go back to that story of him walking in just saying, well, I don't know, just do it. Mm-hmm. And I could just see him doing the same thing with the Texas AD. He said, well, I don't want him. Well, who do you want to hire?
You know what?
I don't know.
And as corny as that sounds, that happens.
It happens,
because
yeah.
If not,
really
you want the guy's money. And how many times you hear about like all these stadiums, someone threatening to move? I mean, it's happening now with the LA and stuff. And I think that's wrong, but it really puts into the light about basically you own a toy, but you need an arena to fill it, but you don't want to pay it. And basically, it's like Green Bay does it great. The city owns the team.
Right.
You have a community that owns the team. They need a stadium. Then everybody has this mentality that we own a part of that, and that's why their fans are so loyal up there. But like when it comes to professionals, what I don't get, and I really find almost obscene, is the fact that they expect the taxpayers to pay all this stuff when the taxpayers don't even own it. So
you bring up a good point. Let's kind of stay in the state of Wisconsin. Is like let's talk about the brand new Bucks arena. Mm-hmm. So the Milwaukee Bucks are building a brand new complex in downtown Milwaukee that's going to house a new arena, and they also kind of did designs for this whole new like city walk atmosphere, restaurants, clubs, all sort of stuff.
Rich people.
And exactly.
That's the disappointing thing.
Yeah, and here's the thing though is that I think we've kind of learned
against rich people or anything. But
I think what we've learned over the years is that when they try to do things like that, and they say like, oh, we're going to build an arena, and because the arena is there, the area is going to see growth. Well, yeah, we've seen how much growth the AT&T Center has brought to the east side of San Antonio. Mm-hmm. There's nothing there.
No, it's just a parking lot and then one-way traffic after
exactly.
a game.
It's just gentrification.
It's completely gentrification. It's very true. And so the citizens of Wisconsin were against this entire plan. They really were. They didn't want to pay for it. Mm. They didn't want to have this eyesore, is what they called it. They liked the idea of the arena and saying like, oh, this is very cool. Bucks have been in the Bradley Center for the longest time. Let's build this Bucks arena. It'll be upgraded. It'll have all these awesome fan-centric things in it that will make the experience better. Yeah, we're with that. But we don't like the idea of us paying for it. So then what happened is the Bucks owner, that whole entourage of people, went to Governor Scott Walker, and what did Walker do? Oh, that's done. Sign off on it.
Okay, that's where I go back to.
And then it goes back to the whole political action committee.
And to turn this all the way around. I mean, when you look at people donating to campaigns, that's where it helps you out.
Exactly.
Because in essence, I mean, he could have just given, let's just say $100,000 up there. It's a little steep, but to that. But he remembered him and say, "I'll help you out. Let's get through the bureaucracy," and boom, that's it.
And that's exactly
it leads to the whole thing of with stadium and talk and everything. And this is going to constantly be an argument for the ages. Is that you're taking real fans away from the game?
Yeah.
Because if we need to go, if you want to see Cowboy game And so, I mean, you're easily spending what,
$75 a park.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Exactly.
It's
I mean,
absolutely
easily
nuts.
If you're bringing like your kid and stuff, I mean, you have to expect to be spending what, at least $250, and even more than that. I mean, because hotel and everything else like that. Because none of us live in Dallas. Who the hell lives there? But the thing about it is, it's not even Dallas. They don't play in Dallas.
They don't even know. They're in Arlington.
Yeah. And see, even they know better.
Yeah.
But that's what I just don't get. But if you look at the schematics of it, or how everything is just organized, it's kind of a rubber banding effect. You can have the public push back, and they have to. If you want a new stadium, it is kind of a fine touch. Owners do have a lot of power in there because they know everybody involved in it. They have the money, they have the politicians, they have the support structure that'll push it. And if you have the right representative up there, they can sell that to the people. Because of grassroots, that's always iffy. But usually if it's a grassroots trying to push back, it's not going to last because they'll be crushed by a lot of the money. Because if you have a lot of money, you have the advertising, you have a lot of you have the optics in that case. And you see that all the time. And so you have these luxury boxes supporting, and I've seen it, supporting people who attend the games but don't watch it.
Which is the whole issue with the Alamo Dome, is that it doesn't have any luxury boxes. But luxury boxes are the way for owners to make money. They need those corporate donations and everything to have those luxury boxes, which is the big problem with the Dome.
Yeah, and we've been in luxury boxes.
Yeah.
And, the experience there is pretty damn cool. I mean, because you're sitting there, there's TVs, there's monitors, everything. People serving you food. The food never. Well, if it's a good luxury box.
At the AT&T Center, my favorite thing is to be in a luxury box for Spurs games because it's free booze, and so I will be in there the entire time just bringing to. And then even if you're in the arena watching the game in those booths, the waitresses will make drinks for you and bring them to you, and it's all included. And so to me, that's the best part of going to a Spurs game is when I don't have to go to a bar or anything, and people are just bringing me drinks, and hell, I'm in.
Yeah, the first time I ever went to a luxury box and everything, I went there and I snuck in food, not even realizing it too, because here I had like these beer nuts that we made. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be delicious, and I was like, oh, hide them, and they might be checking the bags, but if you hide it under, they just open it up, you're done. And what cracked me up is that, it cracks me up now, but here I am, West Side up there, and I get in there, and what happens is, finally we sit down and everything. I'm like, okay, bring them out, and so we start eating them, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, what would you like to order? I'm like, what? And
would you like the pizza?
Paid.
We can get you Rudy's barbecue.
I was like, what?
Whataburger? Is that what you want?
I'm used to sitting way up there, the obstructed view behind the curtain and everything. But that's what I really. And of course, nothing's going to change though, because I can't blame people for making money, but at the same time, it just feels so unfair. But
it really
you do
does.
take the game away from it.
Really, and especially if you're sitting up there, and at the AT&T Center, those 200 seats. If you sneeze, you'll fall to your death.
Exactly.
Because of the way that the seats are kind of situated and stuff. I've been up at the very top row of that arena to the point that it's so high I can touch the roof, and I saw AC/DC there.
Nice.
And
I saw a final. I saw the first finals game with the Spurs, and it wasn't an obstructed view. We were like a little bit in front of the curtain, but we still saw it. But we were all the way up the end, and there was an advantage there because I could stand up and bang against the wall. Because had I not done that, they probably wouldn't have won the game.
It's very true. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and end our first podcast. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us and listening to us talk for a bit. We will see you guys, as always, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Go Spurs Go Memes. Thanks again so much for just spending some time with us. I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Frank. And my friend Richard, who's here with us, just trying to put this together. Appreciate the time and everything, guys. And we will talk to you guys on the flip side. And as always, Go Spurs Go. Yeah, hummingbird.